Hi, I'm Joe Wetzel. I am with the McLean Project for the Arts on the board and former board chair, and I'm here with Uta Gill, who is joining us or will be joining us at the McLean Project for the Arts Art Fest in October. Uta is locally based, Washington, D.C. based, although I would like to think a little more internationally flavored as she looks around. Once she opens her mouth, you will hear that she is from the deep South.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, say hello, Uta, and we'll know
Hi,
how
everybody.
long
Joe. Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I'm so excited to be part of the MPA Art Festival again this year. It's my third year.
Third year, good.
Yes, third year. It was wonderful every year.
Well, that's great. For a little bit of history for those who don't know it, Uta's introduction to art, I find fascinating and unusual. As kids, there are family outings. It might be, okay, gang, let's go have a picnic, or okay, gang, let's go to the shore. But your family said, okay, gang, let's go learn folk art painting.
That is right. And that was a genius idea for my dad. I don't know how he came up with that. I was about 14 years old, and he said, all right, everybody, so my sister, my mom, and my dad signed up for folk art lessons. And, that taught us a lot. It taught me a lot about brush loading, color mixing. It really created some of the foundations I'm still drawing from to this day. And it was a family bonding event, obviously. It was fun. And after that, but maybe I should go back. So all this is in Germany. So I was born and raised German family in a town close to Frankfurt in Hessen. So yeah, we did 14, I always did very handy things. My dad was the guy who did the tiles himself, everything. So handy family. I love to do things with my hands. So the folk art was the first introduction really to something more artsy. And after folk art, I took silk painting lessons. And not sure how popular it is here, but it's very similar to watercolor, actually.
Right.
Yeah, and it's tricky. It's not that easy to paint on fabric. And all this was a hobby, and I knew I was in my happy zone when I did that. Like time flew by, I loved doing it, and it was a hobby, and never thought this could be a career. Back then, who was telling you, well, you should be an artist, right? Nobody told you that. So
your father was saying, pick up a wrench and do something.
Exactly.
handy.
Yeah, I had to learn tiling, believe it or
Tiling.
not.
There we go.
I had to do that, yes. And I got a drill and I got a toolbox for Christmas, so hey.
Those are skills that come in handy to this day, I'm sure.
Yeah, now they do. Absolutely. So I ended up studying tourism and work in a travel agency. And then, I decided what's next? I thought, why not study Spanish and move to Spain for a few months? And I did that all on my own, knew a few words in Spanish, moved to Madrid, and met there my future husband. So you just met Juan.
Your tech advisor.
Yeah, my IT guy. And we lived, the 4 months turned into 3 years, me living in Spain. I did learn Spanish perfectly. And then he was in Spain, actually, it was an American company on an assignment. And then it was time to move back to the US. So we got married in Spain and moved to the US, to the East Coast, and lived there in several states, had 2 kids. And then there was no art, obviously. I was a full-time mom, loved every minute of it. And then
life got in the way of life.
Yeah, and that's fine. There's a time for everything, right? So that's okay. So when the kids were about 10, 12 years old, I started taking art lessons again from local artists, Kurt Schwartz, Maggie Steiner, Sarah Linda Poli, Catherine Riedel. Took a couple semesters at Nova, and started painting more and more. I got better and showed it to my friends, and they're like, oh, wow, you do this? And they started buying some art. And then you suddenly have this inventory, and I knew, well, it's time to go to the public. You got to have the guts and just show what you've been doing, and go to like little coffee shops, small art fairs. Started out with a little table, and that grew. I kept learning, get more feedback, and here I am a few years later, filling up an entire tent.
Your work is all in oils, mostly in oils.
I do paint. Everything I offer for sale is oil.
Okay.
That's correct. I do paint a little bit watercolor, just because when I travel, I like to bring my painting supplies with me, and oil doesn't travel really well. So for obvious reasons. So that's why I started with my watercolor. Eventually, I might offer it for sale, but who knows when that will be.
Now, it's going to be hard for anybody looking behind you just because of the scale. What isn't apparent is some of this they can see. Your work is based on representational images. A lot of animals, some still lifes, some landscapes. But what can't be seen because of the scale that we're looking at right now is that you move into your backgrounds an awful lot of abstract work. So it's a really dynamic, I find it to be a dynamic and unique pairing. It's as if you're having two different kinds of parties on the canvas. You're capturing an owl, and you're capturing it beautifully, and then you have this little side party going where you're exploring the layering of colors that has only a little bit to do with the owl, but makes the whole image complete. Which part of that do you like better? Or
Well,
the whole?
yeah, you said it all very beautifully. Yeah, I do like, it's kind of that yin and yang. It's not I like one better than the other. I feel both work together and create a tension, an
Yes.
energy that I think is very attractive in a painting. Besides me having tons of fun creating all those
Yeah.
wonderful backgrounds. For example, some of the backgrounds I would use thinned out paint, thin it out with turpentine. I let it drip down, and then some magic happens. It's also pretty much out of my control when you do those kind of techniques. And then I decide, what do I like, what I do not like, and incorporate it into in my painting. It's kind of, I like the realism, but if everything is painted realistic, I feel like it takes away from each other. So the way, if I have a background that's more loose, it guides towards the abstract, towards the realistic subject, and just makes it more of a focal point. Um,
Yeah,
it
I
just
think.
goes beautifully hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as you said, it's the tension that on the
Yeah.
canvas that keeps the viewer interested. You do a great job of it.
Thank you.
You have two kind of different scales. I mean, you've got very small images and then larger. Is that a progression, or are they two different mindsets that are at work there?
Well, the way it started and the way I approach a larger painting, I first work out color combinations, design, all of those issues that arise in a larger painting, I work it out in a smaller one. So it started out me painting little color studies, and they were a painting in itself, and people liked them. So, and I enjoyed painting the small paintings. So then I started painting more, because I realized my learning curve was so much faster when I painted 100 small paintings versus 5 larger ones. So I decided, okay, I want to learn fast. What's the best way to become a better painter? Well, paint plenty of paintings. And how do you get a lot of done? Just go smaller. So I started to painting smaller, and I enjoyed it. a lot of translates, not everything. The brush strokes itself do not translate
Yeah.
from smaller to larger paintings. That's obvious, but the color mixing, the design, the composition, all this translates into a larger painting.
You can work out a lot of problems
Yes,
on a smaller
absolutely.
piece, but smaller
Yeah.
scale. Right.
And
Exactly.
then once I started offering it for sale, a smaller painting is it's a much easier sale than a larger painting too, because we don't have to think about where to display it. Larger paintings are, it's very hard to find the perfect home for a larger painting.
Indeed. Indeed. Uta, I'm afraid our time together is brief and ending. There was so little
Wow,
but
that was
and
fast.
it's fast. I promised you time would fly by. But I hope that if people aren't familiar with the work, they'll take advantage of seeing you live and in person, seeing the things that you can't see either on your website or in the images behind you, which is, I'll remind everybody, your work is oils, and very much so you can see Uta's hand at work when you see the actual image. There's a lot of textures and patterns that are absolutely invisible on the screen that you must see live at the
Absolutely.
McLean
Yes.
Project for the Arts Art Fest.
Yes, and I'm
And you
so
can,
excited. I can't wait for October to come, and would love to show it to everybody. And you can actually touch it. There's no glass in front of it. So feel free to touch my art too. That's
well,
okay.
you heard that from Uta, not
Yes.
from me. And maybe not everybody's going to be so thrilled to have you touching their artwork,
No,
but
it's
Uta
fine with
will let
me.
you.
Yes.
Okay. Uta, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you live and in person in October.
Same
And
here.
we'll wish you the best of luck there.
Thank you
Thanks
so much
again.
for taking the time for the interview, Joe. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Take care. Bye.